Hello, I'm Plutoburns and welcome to Eagleland. Today's manga, Koyoi Kimi to Kiss no Chigiryo, is not good. It's not well written, it does nothing to stand out within its genre, and it has some surprisingly bad art direction. But it is also one of the few mangas that I would describe as a knockoff. There is surprisingly little Me Too knockoffs in the manga world. Very rare is the manga that I can point to as actively trying to be some other popular manga. And in fairness to Koyoi Kimi, it doesn't rip off the art or the story of the manga I have in mind. It's more of a mockbuster, like Transmorphers. Not actually a rip-off story, but clearly trying to ape the style to get attention. So which manga is it channeling for readership? This one, Kami-sama Kiss. Kami-sama Kiss came onto the scene a few years ago and was a breath of fresh air in the shoujo genre. Okay, it wasn't a particularly unique setup, but it had its own particular spin on the mystical romance story and a refreshingly different art style. Now, I promise that this review will not simply be a side-by-side comparison of these two mangas, mostly because I intend to give this its own review. And in all honesty, they don't have much in common beyond the fox spirit male lead character. You can see what I'm talking about, right? Well, anywho, the story goes that Koharu's grandma had the ability to see fairies and heal them with a magic touch. But now she is dead, and Koharu is attending her funeral. She wanders off and encounters fantastic Mr. Fox Spirit. He's hurt and looking for the grandmother-powered Poke Center. But then an Ekans appears from the long grass and attacks. Koharu asks for help, but James says that he is too great to help her. And then he saves her 2 pages later. And thus we encounter the main problem with this manga. Characters doing and saying things that don't make sense. Even for manga. If you had a debt to pay back the old lady, why even pretend you were going to let her die? Well, Vulpix collapses from his wounds, but it turns out that Koharu has the same healing powers her grandmother had. Why does she have those powers? This review will go a lot faster if you stop asking why and just assume the answer is because the author said so. Koharu tries to run home, but Fox McCloud stops her and declares that as thanks for saving him, he will grant her the honor of being his manservant.
So I hereby swear a life debt to you.
You saved my life, so now I'm your servant cliché.
Except dumber because it's backwards. Now, the first chapter of this manga is a special 80-page edition. But the author didn't write an 80-page story. No, she took this intro chapter and another story where Brer Fox follows Koharu to school and stuck them together. I'm not going to claim that I am a writer, but if I wanted to write a 20-minute script, I wouldn't take 2 10-minute scripts and slap them together. So, as I said, Rusty follows her to school and causes a scene because ears in a tail, hello! He agrees to stay out of sight. Then Koharlot spills some water on Onizaku, the so-called prince of the school. Can we stop it with the princes already? She fangirls out, which makes Ninetails jealous. He warns Koharlot to stay away from Onizaku, but doesn't elaborate. And thus we encounter manga cliché number 32, giving a warning about a person or situation, but not actually explaining why they are dangerous.
Don't talk to the ice cream man!
Why? What is it?
You'll just have to trust me!
But he has ice cream.
Oh, I get it. You just don't trust me.
Turns out Basil Brush was completely right, since Onizaku turns out to be a half-demon who kidnaps Koharlot. He then goes into a long spiel about how his family doesn't respect him or his mom, and killing Foxy will get them some clout. You wouldn't happen to be characterizing yourself, so we sympathize with you and don't mind your sudden good guy heel turn later, would you? Well, the hostage plan works, but then Koharlot gets untied by a fairy she healed earlier. Oh, I forgot to mention, she healed a fairy while at school. After being untied by Creepy Fella, she runs to Spy Fox. Onizaku? I'm pretty sure you could have grabbed her. But he doesn't and gets roasted. And then Koharlot heals him, because the author said so. Well, her act of kindness touches Titus, and he declares that he loves her and she will be his wife. And here we see clear signs that this big chapter was 2 chapters at one point. Declaring Koharlot as his manservant or his wife makes no sense for the character, but having them in the same chapter is just poor narrative pacing. You can't have that kind of declaration in consecutive chapters, let alone the same chapter. You have to give at least a 5-chapter spacing. I'm gonna skip chapter 2 since it's boring. The only thing of note is that Guy Fawkes uses mind control powers on Koharlot's parents to blend into her life. Because nothing says marriage material like mind control. Chapter 3 introduces this Shrine Maiden character who is looking to control what the Fox say. She attacks, but Vulpix uses Light Screen! Then she attacks Koharu, but come on, he clearly just blocked this attack and can do the same here. Oh wait, this is poorly written. He jumps in front of the attack! And for his noble sacrifice, he gets captured in a charm thing. The Shrine Maiden summons him and orders him to kill Koharlot, but he refuses, so she gets pissy and rips up his charm. Oh no, he's dead. No, he isn't. He's just stuck in fox form and lost his powers. So, first order of business, next chapter must restore the status quo. So, after some debating, they figure the only person who can help them is the local land god. So they walk to God's house and ask for some healing. He says that he hates it when people come begging to him for help without giving anything in return, but then Koharlot begs harder and he's like, oh, all right. So they once again walk to Demon Town to get some supplies, but the demons catch on and prepare for a Koharu cookout. Then Land God shows up and saves them. He says he didn't need the supplies and was just testing them. Then why did you save... One more chapter. Just one more chapter. Chapter 5 has Koharlot's best friend being harassed by some crow spirits. Koharlot volunteers to mediate since she is willing to risk her life for her bestest friend ever that we haven't met before. I'm not saying I skipped over her. This is literally her first appearance. Koharlot and Mozilla get warped into Tengu Land, where we are introduced to obvious hot guy wearing a mask. He gets pissed at the crow who brought them over. Aye, you brought the wrong human, you dimwit. Koharlot gets all offended, going, how dare you hurt him? He did nothing wrong. Whereupon she lays on hands and heals Crowboy. In fact, Koharlot has to lay on hands no less than 3 times this chapter. All on crows this tosser beat with a stick until they bled. Which brings up an interesting question. What are the limits of Koharlot's healing powers? Does she draw from some kind of energy reserve? Or can she just lay on hands and heal anything? Because that would be stupid. Getting back on track, they're introduced to wizened old leader Tengu. He basically says, well, since you are the granddaughter of that fine lady, of course I can forgive your friend's transgressions. But you will have to marry my son as payment. Oh, you mean the dickhead who beats people? Well, I see nothing wrong with this plan. But Foxy disapproves, so Grandpa says, well, if you don't like that, here's my counteroffer. You have 1 week to fundamentally alter my son's personality and behavior so that he isn't such a bellend. Wow, Grandpa. I didn't think it was possible to come up with an idea stupider than surprise marriage, but you managed it. I am done talking about this stupid plot. I'm going to talk about the art for a second. The art for this manga is mostly passable. It features all the usual big eyes and shiny moments that are common in shoujo, as well as the usual problems of characters seeming to float over backgrounds and poor transitions. But I have a problem with the more low-effort chibi drawings. This may sound weird, but they aren't cartoony enough. It's hard to explain, but I best liken it to those old political cartoons of Bush with the big ears. Except imagine those ears stuck on a realistic-looking face. Koyoi Kimi is created by Aikawa Saki. She is a very prolific author with a lot of stories in the shoujo genre. I sampled some of them, and my god, they are exactly what I think of when I picture bad shoujo manga. Wide-eyed, beautiful girls, hot, skinny guys with scruffy hair, love triangles, cliched plot lines, irrelevant background characters, sparkle effects, wasted setups, contrived plot lines, interfering family members, and horrible writing! I'm Plutoburns, and this has been Eagleland.
Fox went out one chilly night. He prayed for the moon to give him light, for he'd many mile to go that night before he reached the town, many mile to go that night before he reached the town. Well, he ran till he came to a great big bend. The ducks and the